This exclusive Washington Commanders coverage is being brought to you by BossUp Summer Camp in Bowie, Maryland, from June the 23rd to August the 22nd, 2025. Why choose BossUp Summer Camp? This isn't just another summer camp. It's an investment on your child's future. Limited spots are available. Enroll today. You can reach us by phone at 202-951-5145 or www.bossupsummercamp.com. Now, stay tuned at the end of this video to get more information on BossUp Summer Camp.
cool to spend time with you as this time of year gets started, one of the main topics that we talk about is the focus on the blending of year one and year two players, as they've been part of the system. And I think one key factor in that, a little bit of the straw that stirs the drink, that's the coaches. Because like this time of year, it's so much about them and their time to shine and the teaching and the emphasis that has to be put in. And teaching those systems on, all three phases. And so to have, the crew back, that doesn't happen very often. And I want to just take a minute and say how much I appreciate that and them, because I really do. And then it was also a cool day. Brian Mitchell came through and spent, some time with the returners today, and with over 19,000 return yards and 13 special teams touchdowns. I had invited him in the winter. Hey, man, do you mind coming through for a day and hanging out with us? And so I couldn't think of a more ideal person to share some insights and, some ideas about returning. I'd asked him, he had not returned a kick until he got to the NFL. Now, that was just wild, man, like what a work ethic it takes to say, yeah, I'll figure it out. Like, I'll find my way, whether I'm playing running back or returning kicks or punts or covering kicks, like, that's a real one. So all that said, let's get rocking with you guys and start the day.
Let it rip. There we go.
I like it.
All right.
You're close.
All right.
See if ESPN is
family show here, right? With Jaden, what difference do you see? And a lot of talk about the size, bigger. Does he look bigger, and what's the result of that?
I know he's worked hard through the off season, but he's just in command of the things that he wanted to work. He and his teammates, they've really put in a lot of work together. I'd say that probably is just, it's felt excellent, John, in terms of like the attitude of the guys and their work, to really put it in. You can sense when people are going for it, and he's certainly one that is.
And you guys were so big on the attendance of these things last year. Today, they're Terry, Laramie, Marshawn. What's your approach with that? It's a voluntary situation, but you obviously would like guys here, but it's voluntary. So what's your approach on handling all that?
I think it's not one size fits all for everything, and in my opinion, like, this has been a fantastic off season. And it's not just the players, it's also the coaches too, John, to say, can we level up, and to level up, what do you look at? What do you want to change? What do you want to keep the same? And so the off season's been excellent, and so I've been in touch with every guy on the team, and so I've really enjoyed this time. I also have some stronger relationships than you did maybe a year ago, with everybody being new, and now so that blend of the year two players to go through with it. It's one of the things I do enjoy about coaching. Like, if you can get to know the man before the ball player, it helps take it and push it a little further. And so for the guys who are the year one, the new players here, not just a rookie, but a new free agent that may have joined the team, getting to know them and watching them practice today for the first time, like, you could see guys work hard in the strength and conditioning, but it's another thing to see the speed of processing and on the field. And so today we just did some 7-on-7 and some 2-minute, and then we'll add more team as we go. I like to ramp it up, as opposed to doing everything all at once day one.
Hey, Dan, it would be easy for somebody in Jaden's situation, coming off the year he had, getting the attention he has, to maybe come into camp and look a little, bigger head, whatever it is. Doesn't appear that way. What's been your sense of him as the person coming in here, after this offseason? Yeah.
He's an amazing teammate. The amount of work that he puts in that goes unseen here, to get ready to play, to learn it, to teach others, to connect the guys that's going through. There is no flinch in Jaden Daniels. He is an absolute, as focused and relentless as you could about getting better. And so that's why I said for us around here, man, we appreciate that. And there's a lot of things that, he and the rest of us are really digging in hard on to say, all right, can we get this better? And if he does that, I do that, others do that. Like, we thought collectively, and there's a lot of space we can get better at.
May have asked you this some point in the offseason, but with defenses obviously getting the year of seeing him on tape and getting a sense of what Cliff wants to do with him and things like that, what's the key for adjusting to that as you're starting this whole offseason process? Is it like to react to what we think is going to happen, or just, hey, we do what we do? How to as a guy work the other side of the ball? How do you?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of playbook that people haven't seen, number one, featuring some new players and into some different spots. And how important that is to us, Ben, to say what can unique players do and find the spots to do them. I think Cliff's excellent at that. And so as we're going through, that's what's kind of fun about now, exploring some new thoughts, some new ideas, and some scheme, while like sharpening on the things like, can I go from really good at something to elite and to the best at this concept, this type of play, this footwork. And so that's what we spend a good bit of time doing. But there is also some exploring time on all three phases, because it's one thing to put it on paper. It's another thing to see it and move, and what does it react and how does it look.
We've obviously seen him at sporting events, charity stuff, but just curious if we can get an update on Sam Cosme's recovery.
Yeah, Sam is doing excellent. Like, he has really put the work in. He's hitting all the markers that he's supposed to. We're not going to miss one step along the process. But it starts with him, man. Like, just the everyday intensity that goes with it. And there's a work mindset that comes out of that, and like that's important because that's who Sam is. And he's off to a really strong start, hitting all the markers he's supposed to up to now.
And you've talked at length about how you and AP talk every day and go over the roster and everything. When it comes to not any one specific player, but just contract stuff, extensions, negotiations, all that stuff, how involved are you? How much do you want to be involved?
Yeah, it's more like him keeping me up to date on the things, and say this is what's going on. And so that's like the balance that we share back and forth. This is a scheme, in practice on the scripts, why we're going to put so-and-so at this spot to do things, and he'll, hit me back on the same thing. So it's a nice balance to know we're always going to keep each other, in the loop on the things, whether it's practice on my end, giving him information, or on the business side, him giving me insights about, where things are and what we're doing. So it's just nice to have that, honestly, to have that connection and being able to talk it through. So we do talk about the team, every day. And so it's not one topic, on the same day.
Any updates to share?
None.
Hey, good afternoon,
You'll be the
Coach.
first to know if there is one to share.
I wanted to ask you
Good
about
afternoon.
Tyler Biadasz. Looks like the O-line has potential to go through some significant changes from last year's group. How important can a guy like him be in that development of that new group?
Yeah, I love the competition, at a number of spots, whether it be offensive line. And you've got your first look at, some groups today, and there are some really deep groups that it's going to really foster excellent competition. And so no different with Tyler, in terms of directing it, where we want to hit on, where are the important factors to go. For the big guys on both sides, this off-season is important. It's the strength, it's the conditioning, it's getting everything aligned just right. But their time really is in the training camp space. Who to target, where to go, and so that's important. So I can play quickly, like we've all heard of like speed of things. It's like the speed of the read, how quick I can see something to go, and that's what like this time the spring ball is about for the big guys. Can I get it targeted where I'm supposed to get to? But I love that they are putting in the work together, O-line, D-line, the strength work, the conditioning work, because if we can get that part up, and then this time of year we're building, the understanding of the systems, it just allows everybody to play faster, and Tyler's right in the middle of all that.
And I know you're working with a lot of players, obviously, but Dietrich Wise, one of the newer players here, kind of just your overall impressions of him coming to the team this year.
Yeah, and he had come with great recommendations, from people that were, in his past, when sometimes you get a text after you hire somebody, say, man, this guy is remarkable, not before, but after you've already signed them, it's usually a good sign, and that was the case with he and with Jonathan. It was easy to see how he would fit in here. He's so strong, playing blocks, he's square, he's had, like, excellent background in the run game, so for him to fit in, it was a very easy fit for us. This is what we know this player can do. This is what we've known about the work ethic, and so he's been off to a great start here.
Sorry to maybe bring this up again. It's been a big talker today. Jaden, have you noticed, does he look any different physically? I mean, he said he's gotten in the weight room.
No, we haven't got side by side in the mirror or anything, but he's doing great. Honestly, I don't know what else to share with you about that. He's at the right markers that we want him to be. So he and all the guys have, certain weight and body composition that they're all hitting for. So for him, he's in the space that he wants to go.
And then just back to the coaching staff, how rare is it to retain so much of a coaching staff, and then how big of an advantage is that even in
It's a really big deal, and that's why I did lead off with that intentionally, because I don't think we've got a chance to really talk about that as much as I thought we would, because looking back for me, it's pretty rare. And we've also added in Brian Schneider, somebody that I've had some experience with, who is also another true heavy hitter on the special team side. But I guess it fast tracks some of the things that we understand, but it also allows us probably to get a little deeper, than we were in year one, to get closer, better understanding of one another. And that's been a big deal for me. So year one to year two for a player is big. For coaches, it's big too. And so, I really appreciate that.
With that continuity of coaching staff, from you down to offensive coordinator to quarterback coach, what does it do for a football team when you have a quarterback going from a rookie year to a sophomore season, having that sort of continuity in the same staff and the same offense?
Yeah, it's really important. We wanted to keep really I don't know, for lack of a better word, I think Adam may have shared with me, an ecosystem, together of some really strong staff members that we feel excellent about. So for some to decide to stay here when they had other opportunities not to, I think that speaks a lot of what they're building collectively, players and coaches together. And so it meant a lot.
Hi.
Hello.
Knowing this phase is voluntary, do you make an effort to stay in touch with guys like Terry or Marshawn or Laramie when they aren't here?
Just make it a point to stay in touch, in season, off season, and just make sure that's my job, to make sure, everybody's hitting the right markers of what we're doing. And so those guys have been excellent in terms of the communication with me, and I speak, to Terry specifically, he's thrown a great off season.
And when you look at the positional groups where there's still some things to figure out,
yes,
like the O-line, the secondary, what do you look for to see, all right, this guy, he clearly fits here, we need this guy here? I mean, what are some of the things that you want to see?
Yeah, because it's usually not, something that we'll see in one day, but it's all these markers, Nikki. If you keep hitting it over time, then it's okay, now I've got a broader sense of what that would look like. So you want to keep track of the things that individually players are doing. All right, that looks strong. What if we gave him more reps at that spot? And we're also learning some of the newest players here. What can they do that's unique or specific to them? I can remember asking Debo, is there any specific route that's not here that says, man, this is one thing that you're excellent at? And he goes, no. I said, well, if it ever comes, I'd like to know that, if that goes for him or any other guys. But that was my way of pouring back into them, knowing there's a lot of things that we're learning, but you also can help fast track it by saying, this is one thing I can do better than anybody. And so whether it's he or Dietrich or others, I do prod a little bit because they're good dudes and they're learning the system here. But I also want to know, I'm interested in your background. I'm interested in what you've done. And so I do that some with the rookies, but not as much. For them, it's more, these are the principles of what we're doing. Some of the other guys who played some longer, they know themselves better, and they've done it at a high level. So I'm usually one to ask that. I've learned a lot from players through the years, and that hasn't stopped.
Does the coaching staff continuity allow you to refine your development plan for coaches as well?
It does, and that's one of my big off-season goals, to see, can we improve as a staff? And well, what does that mean, Dan? What does that look like? It's us improving to really help the players. And so for them to be at their very best, we also have to be improving. You can see how that, can work together. So it's not just this is what you need to do. It's also us rising with them to take it to new spots, think of new ways, new techniques, new teaching methods, new ways to communicate it. And if we can improve and not just say, well, this, let me just take out what we did last year and put it down, but in fact improve ourselves as coaches, as a staff, then you got a chance to do some really cool things, because it's not just one person growing, it's the player and the staff. And they feel that when the coach is, digging in to find it. And the best of the best coaches, man, like lie awake at night thinking like, how am I effing going to get this guy better? And family show. And there's a lot of coaches here that do that. To say, I'm going to figure it out. And like, that's what's fun about this time. I said earlier, it's why it is their time to shine. Like, there's a lot of teaching that has to go on. These next 3 weeks are critical for the players that are still learning the system or trying to find a role. And so we'll find out a lot. Every day matters, the drills matter, the teach-backs matter, because we're finding out a lot about them.
Do you have a favorite principle to teach younger coaches or things that you're focused on this year specifically that stand out?
Not a specific principle. Usually it involves something with communication. We could all say that. There's another piece that I dig into a lot on the planning. You know, how are you going to use the practice reps? How are you going to use this part of individual to work something? And then the last part is an evaluation, okay? First, with ourselves as coaches, what is it that you want to improve on? And then the next step, what are you doing? What is the actual work on? And if you can get that part right, as from the self-awareness, say, this is something I want to improve on, then it's much easier for me to assist and dig in to help back them on that.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach. We've heard repeatedly about what you've done for this culture and just guiding and leading the brotherhood. I know you've mentioned before that the team, they act on it, but so much from the players, coaches, they all talk about your role in this. So who do you lean on for that leadership style that you have? Where did you get a lot of that learning and teaching from to then share it with your organization here?
I think one of the early parts of leading is that you think it's, what can I do for them, for that. And then as you really get closer to people, it's developing the leaders, from within, because that to me, you're talking about like the culture is like how we act together. What are the things that we do on an everyday basis? So I love that you guys saw us competing, like starting from bags and going through special teams, and then a 7-on-7 with guys really going to strain. Like today's practice, for the first practice, from afar would not have looked like a first practice. But that came from the players, of being ready and having that culture of like, hey man, like when we go out to do this, like let's so work on these specific things. And so for me, it's more gas onto that to say, all right, how do we get the whole group better, Kenny, by the attitude that they can bring for one another. If they can look after one another and know what each other is working on and improving upon, then there's no limit to what you can become, because it's not reliant on one person watching you or you on your own figuring it out. It's a whole, network of people like just supporting the hell out of you. And that to me is what we're after and chasing. And this is absolutely the type of team that, like, man, I'd want to play for and I'm dying to coach for, because they do really want to push one another to see how good they can get.
Last one. Hi, Dan. Last year you guys were kind of like the hunters. Now this year,
we're always the hunters.
Okay.
Okay. Don't go there. I know I'm cutting you off right before you get started.
Okay.
Yeah. That way we don't have to get into, are you the hunter or the hunted? Like, we are always the hunters.
Explain that then, because you've had a lot of success last year.
I knew where you were going with that. And I like it. I'm glad.
And in a sense, last year you were one game away from going to the Super Bowl. So obviously the bar has been raised. Teams below you are looking at trying to knock you guys off in a sense. So that role reversal of how this team is going to handle success, what does that look like to you?
So we've got a lot to prove. And so for us, that is what the hunting is. It's not something that's going to be on at the end of the season. It's right now about these next 3 weeks. We've got a couple weeks OTAs and a mini camp, and it's like absolutely going after it as hard as we can to see how good we can get, and then we'll worry about training camp. But the hunter is a mindset. It's an attitude of absolutely delivering and going for it. But that's who we are, and that doesn't change on anything done previously. It's just how we get down.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right. You guys have a good day. I'll see you.
Go out and they get Laramie, Debo, Josh Connolly. What was your reaction to those moves, and especially like a guy like Debo, who's you can have a lot of connection with?
I mean, obviously it's exciting when you're able to get players like that have been producing this league for some time. So I was most definitely excited. I was excited to get to work with them.
Hey, Jaden, good to see you. How was it navigating this offseason coming off the year that you had?
I mean, it was fun just to, sit back and reflect and, figure out how I'm going to move throughout this offseason and move forward. But other than that, just living life, still working and training.
The internet has a lot of questions about whether you've gotten a little stronger or bulked up a little bit. What was that part of the off seasons to try to work on getting a little bit bigger, and if so, what'd you do?
I was just in the weight room, just working out. You're always trying to improve in different areas, but I don't know what to say about that. Just let the people talk about it.
Jaden, for a guy like you that is just so focused on football all the time, do you have to force yourself to unplug a little in the off season?
Yeah, I think I did. Obviously, you want to get back to it after how the season ended, but it's good for you to kind of unplug and find different ventures and live a little bit.
Cliff talked about how this year it's different. It's not as much implementation of a playbook. Now you guys know the playbook. So what are you kind of focused on in this set of OTAs that's a lot different than it would have been last year?
Getting on the same page with the guys. There's some guys that played with me last year, some new guys, so trying to get them up to speed and teach them how I see it through my lenses.
Cliff said this was a hungry group. You kind of mentioned it, but how is the culture from year one to year two? If things carried over, or I know the NFC Championship left a sour taste in your mouth. Like, what is the feeling of this squad in May?
Yeah, I think it's it's a standard set. You got the core guys that set the standard, and we got those guys back. So we're bringing in new people, and we're holding them to that standard. But we know everything is not going to be given to us. We got to go out there and earn it each and every day.
And you mentioned second year with the same system, same coordinator. What does that do for a quarterback in terms of the muscle memory of knowing that you have the same offense and you don't have to learn a whole new system?
The main thing is just being comfortable. Like I said, familiar with the play call, familiar how you call plays, and what we're trying to accomplish, play in and play out.
Sorry to go back to this, but was there any concerted effort on your part to try to put on more muscle in the off season?
Nah, I was just working out. It wasn't like I need to eat this amount much. No, it was just go out there, have a plan, and naturally just put on weight.
And having a full off season, not doing draft prep and all that other stuff, how much does that change things for you? How does it help you?
Yeah, you just had so much time and freedom to kind of do what you want. So it's difficult trying to navigate that, but you lean on people closest to you, and obviously you got to keep the end goal in mind. And, you're trying to get better each and every day, and you're trying to progress each and every season, each and every month and snap.
What are some of those things that you want Debo to see through your lens or others?
I think that's a conversation between me and him. Can't really give out too many secrets. So just how I see different coverages and stuff like that.
And for you and Cliff, obviously he was pretty collaborative last year. I guess what are some of the things that you can do to grow in your relationship and grow in the offense?
Just transparency and stuff like that. This is what I was comfortable with. This is what he likes, and how can we find a middle ground to obviously expand the playbook and still have our core plays.
Hey, Jaden, just one from me for you today. I just wanted to ask you how you were doing. We all know that you lost a close friend kind of related to this off season. So just how are you?
I'm good. It's a tough little situation. Obviously, somebody close to me, and mental health was real. So, but I do appreciate you asking. But I'm good.
Jaden, anybody, anywhere, anytime was the mantra that was on the walls. When we left last season, coming back and seeing all the primetime games, and you just wanted to be on the spotlight. How excited are you when you see the schedule and to know that there's going to be so many opportunities for this team to be on display?
I think that mantra still stands. I don't think we're looking at it as we play a Monday night or a Sunday night. We're just looking at it like, we're playing this opponent this week on a Sunday, on a Monday. It doesn't matter if we play them on Tuesday, Wednesday. Like, we're just going out there and playing football.
Jen, you mentioned you spent a lot of time in the workroom or in the gym working out. How good did it feel today to get back on the field, put a helmet on, and throw some footballs to your new teammates?
I mean, I love football, so it's very refreshing to go out there and practice again and have some fun.
Jaden, the additions to the offensive line, Connerly, Tunsil, as a quarterback, what does that do for you? What was your reaction to see kind of the upgrades in the O-line, and how does that help you as a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, those are good additions that we brought in, and obviously what Adam and his side of the building is doing. You got to trust them with everything that's going on. So obviously I'm excited. Those are two great individuals, and we got even more that they brought in. So I'm excited to get to work with them and still progress and get ready for camp.
With your success last year, your popularity is skyrocketing across the NFL, and you're doing a great job of remaining grounded and not kind of getting caught up, with the outside stuff. How do you do that? Like, is that a challenge of just trying to put the blinders on in a sense?
I mean, I've never been the type of individual that I could say looks for fame. I'm a very introverted individual, so I just go out there and live my life how I live it. I don't really go too many places. I didn't before that, so I don't think that's going to change for me either.
Jaden, a year ago, you were one of the top picks, obviously, in the draft. There was a ton of hope, a ton of potential for you. Now coming into year two, you are widely considered one of the top quarterbacks, if not the best players in the league. How does that adjust your mentality as you come into this year?
I don't think it does. I just think I got to go out there and prove myself each and every day. No matter if it was last season, this season, or, 10, 20 years down the road, you got to prove yourself each and every season.
And kind of down along the same lines, this team a year ago, there weren't a ton of expectations for the team. Nowadays, again, around the national media, this team has high hopes. How do you lead this team towards where you're going?
Yeah, I mean, the outside noise doesn't matter. You got to go out there and, like I said, keep proving yourself.
When the team brings in a bunch of these new receivers, whether they're rookies or free agents, how do you go about kind of getting a feel for their game? Do you go back and watch kind of some of the stuff that they've done in the past and kind of project how you're going to work with them, or how do you get to know them?
I think it's different. I think you go back and watch some tape and you get an idea. That's what they're good at. This their weaknesses, their strengths, but I mean all that changes to you. That doesn't mean anything until you get live reps with each other and see how they move or see how they run certain routes or how they catch the football. So the live reps are very valuable.
And there are a lot of players who make jumps from their first season to second season, on the field, off the field, around. For yourself as kind of a leader, obviously being the quarterback, how do you see kind of your leadership role expanding as you go into the second season? Or how do you attack leadership, I guess, as you go into the second season?
Continue to be myself.
Last one. Just with Terry not being here during this phase, how do you stay in touch with them? How do you kind of stay on the same page with them?
Me and Terry got a good relationship outside of football, so obviously he got to handle what he has to handle, and but that doesn't change anything. The fact that he's a part of our brotherhood. We know Terry's working and everything, so we got to get better, and he knows he got to get better each and every day.
JJ, did you add weight or just how much? How much?
That's up for grabs. I don't know.
Cliff, we saw the note you left for Adam Peters on draft night to take Josh Connerly. How was it being the GM for that pick, and why for you was taking an offensive tackle important there?
Yeah, I've known Adam a long time, so we always have fun with each other. But just being around Josh, the type of person he is, his makeup, competitive spirit, the desire to be great, and just he's young, and I think the skill set is definitely there, and the sky's the limit for the talent. I think building it, you see in our division, the team who just won the whole thing, they built it starting up front, and I think to try and keep up with those type teams, you got to continue to do that and stock that room. Injuries happen. We're really impressed with the line last year and the job they did, but injuries happen, and you always got to try and get younger, and the more depth you have in that room, the better you're going to do.
And obviously, I'm sure you had to get away for a little bit after the season, but your communication with Jaden over the course of the last few months, how did that work out? Did you guys meet in person, or was it just, text, things like that? How did you guys
Yeah, just text and calls. You know, he like I said, his mind is never very far away from the game. So if he sees something or has a thought, you know, he likes to reach out and talk through it. And so that relationship has really grown, I think, kind of figuring out where we want to continue to get better at.
You talked about Connerly and building up that offensive line. How do you kind of see all those guys? Like, where do you see him playing? Is he a tackle, a guard?
I think DQ said it. I mean, there's really one guy that we see is solidified through and through, and the rest are going to compete and continue to try and get better. And wherever he fits in, whether it's starting this year or next year or the year after. You know, that's what I love about this culture DQ has. Everything's earned, and he'll have to earn it as well, and it's a competitive group right now.
And when you when the season ended with Jaden, was there anything you really emphasized to him going into the offseason that you wanted him to work on?
No. You know, he's a guy, like I said, organically it's going to happen as you continue to work with each other, and he continues to figure out, you know, his game and this offense and master the offense. So it was more just get some rest because he wanted to get right back into it. So hey, get some rest, get away from it, and then attack it. And he's done that. I mean, he is very highly motivated to be as good as he can be, and that's always exciting for the organization.
Regardless of where they end up, how will a bulked up offensive line affect you as a play caller?
You know, that's where it all starts as a play caller. So the ability to you know, have the entire playbook open and feel comfortable with whatever you call. I think it is always made easier on that group is really good. And I thought last year they were tremendous for what we asked them to do, and playing with the rookie quarterback and really helping him along. And hopefully the pieces we added this year will just make him that much better.
What roles do you imagine for Jalen and Ja'Cory specifically this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty loaded group, you know, so they're going to have to kind of get in where you fit in with this group, and there's not a ton of footballs to go around. So both guys have really attacked it. Great athletes, bring a lot of speed, dynamic players, and so we'll kind of see how this progresses throughout the offseason.
You've coached quarterbacks in their first year under your system, the second year. How much does it make a difference when a smart kid like Jaden, when he gets to stay in the same continuity of offense and have that muscle memory?
Yeah, it's huge. I think you look traditionally through the NFL, the guys who've had a ton of success have been able to stay in those long-term, the all-time greats, and just the comfort level, and then you being able to take the ownership of it and understand it inside and out, where now you're correcting people. You don't even need the coaches, and he's kind of getting to that point.
We haven't seen Jaden yet on this offseason, but there's been some speculation over some pictures online that maybe he's put on a little muscle. Does he look different physically?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's still pretty lean, you know, but he's definitely worked really hard at his fitness in the weight room. And, I mean, he's here early and stays late and does all the things. So I'm sure – I haven't seen his weights, but I'm sure that he's a little bit thicker than he was.
And then you saw a lot of Debo in the NFC West. How excited are you to have a guy with that much versatility?
Yeah, one of the best competitors I've gone against as a coach, just seeing him twice a year there in Arizona. I was always so impressed with how Kyle utilized him and did different things with him, and he's a football player through and through. Even being out here at OTA is just, you get him on the field, and he's got a natural feel for things as he's figuring this offense out. But couldn't be more thrilled, having seen it up close and personal for those years to actually get to work with him. He's, like I said, he's a great football player.
Hey, Coach. Second year with you and Jaden, obviously a lot of the conversation is, well, everybody else has a full season to tape on. Jaden and also you as a play caller now. How much do you change and evolve your offense for the sake of changing, and how much do you try to anticipate the fact that they do have all that film on you now?
Yeah, they have a lot of years of play calling on me, actually. So every year you just evolve and really try to maximize who you are as an offense. So we'll see where these new guys fit in. We'll see what we did well last year, what we think we can improve on, and then go from there. But like I said, the guys I've seen that improve year to year are the really hard workers, and that's what Jaden is. So I would expect him to take another big step.
And I don't know if you can really quantify it, but if you can, or however you can answer it, how much are you pulling from your experience from Kyler's second season for Jaden's second season?
Yeah, I think throughout my career, just guys that I've been able to work with in year two, like I said, the biggest deal is just the ownership of the offense and the mastery of it, and where they are very comfortable in checks to the line and correcting guys, and the timing, the rhythm of plays, their footwork marrying up with every concept. I think that's where they really take a huge step, and traditionally the second year has been a massive jump for those guys.
Hey, Cliff, the running back room specifically, and Brian Robinson Jr. obviously is a big year for him. Up and down year last year. What do you see from Brian, and what do you expect kind of from that room, and from Brian especially this year in that running back room?
Yeah, he's been really focused. The biggest thing that came out of last year, I think, was that any of the guys that we asked to go in and played at a really high level. And you know, Eckler in his role and what he was able to do, I thought he really had a resurgence, and all the other guys, whether it's J-Mac or C-Rod, whenever their number was called, they stepped up and played at a high level. But B-Rob's a guy who has played at an incredibly high level. I thought early in the year, when he was really healthy, you know, he was what we expect him to be, and the focus this offseason has been great. He knows what this year means to him and can mean to us when he plays at that level.
Terry McLaurin and Adebo Samuel on the field at the same time. I'm sure you're smiling already. How do they complement each other, their skill sets? How can you utilize them together as a package on the field?
Yeah, both tremendous players. You know, Terry taking the top off, doing the things he does with his route tree outside, always scares defenses. And then Debo, just the myriad of ways you can use him, the touches you can get. He's hard to tackle. That first scan space rarely gets him down. And so just finding ways that he can continue to impact our offense and still get those other guys to football.
And that you saw Jaden bulk up a little bit. Is that something that you and the coaching staff had requested of him or recommended, or did he do that on his own?
I think just through, you know, getting older and working out, I don't think it was anything that we really said, hey, you got to be this weight or that weight. I mean, he knows what he has to do to protect himself and where he feels comfortable playing. But the arm strength, like, he looks better, and you can tell he's stronger. There's no doubt.
And when you're bringing in new guys like Debo Samuel, like Laramie Tunsil, how important is this period, this OTA period, as you're learning your personnel and building that chemistry?
Yeah, it can be good. You know, those guys like that have done it at such a high level for so long, they're consummate professionals. They're going to show up ready to go, whether it's training camp or OTAs. But I think a lot of times for the younger players, it's pretty vital to get them in here, get them comfortable, so then in training camp they can compete at a high level and feel comfortable.
Hey, Coach. When you look at the offense last year and you assess where you all finish, is it any area that you say that this is where we want to be better this year?
Yeah, I thought, you know, ball security ultimately kind of was our Achilles heel late in the season. Had a bunch that we can't do if you really want to be one of those elite teams. And so I think that's an area that we'll harp on all offseason and try to be better at protecting the football.
And looking at one of your wide receivers that you signed this year is Jalen Lane. What have you seen from him in this early stage of the OTAs?
Yeah, he can really roll. Fast, dynamic player. Had a great college career there and very hardworking, very conscientious about his preparation, and it's really picked things up quick. We've kind of moved him around to try and challenge him inside, outside, and he's picked it all up. So I'm excited to see how he develops and does in training camp.
Hey there, Coach. At this point in the season, right, it's May, but you, in your role as offensive coordinator, what are you working on right now, and how does that relate to the overall performance of the offense?
Yeah, trying to get the new players of the system, whether it's the young guys, the rookies, or the vets we brought in, really acclimated and comfortable. Some of the veteran guys have a pretty good feel for it. We really streamlined a lot of the stuff we did last year to make sure that this year, with this offseason, was more skill development and not as much scheme. And so really it's about going out there. We're not trying to scheme people up this time of year, but see how you can execute your one-on-ones, win your one-on-ones, work your route technique, things of that nature.
And a popular topic is the schedule, right? Old NFL, schedule drop and all of that. How much do you look at the schedule now, or is it still kind of like we'll just wait until the season gets here and go week to week? Yeah,
I mean, you go week to week, really. The Madrid one will be cool. I'm a big Europe guy, so I'm stoked about that. But other than that, it's, every time that drops, it's the NFL, and every game looks tough on your schedule.
Having potentially more talent on your offense, obviously faster, younger, how is it going to be for you to keep everybody happy and not have, these egos come to fruition because maybe they're not getting their call in a particular game?
Yeah, I've never had a great player that didn't want the ball, and so that kind of comes with the territory. But that's one thing I think that DQ has created, where it's the team above anything else. And these guys that had their success last year and got their touches, they know bringing Debo in, there's going to be less, but we're going to be better. And I think when they're able to sacrifice for that and understand that the ultimate goal is winning, then it all works itself out. But you want those guys. I mean, they're going to be pissed. I'll get cussed out a few games, but it's just comes with the territory. You'd rather have really good players cussing you out than bad players cussing you out. So.
And then, when you look at the receiver room, obviously with Terry, Debo, and now Jalen to go with Luke and some other guys, do you feel like they're more interchangeable, that you could play them at all the same positions if need be?
We're working towards that. And Noah Brown being back, I thought was huge to get him back. We got to get him healthy, but a lot of guys who understand the system now, played at a really high level, played great in critical situations last year, and so that'll help the young guys come along. But most of those guys can play either inside or out, which is really what you're hopeful of.
Just one more quickly about the schedule. When you see all these primetime games, do you get excited about the opportunity to be showcased on, national TV, or do you look at it more as it screws up my typical week of preparation?
Yeah, I get more excited for the players. This is why they do it, to be in those moments and play in those games and work that hard their entire lives to get here. So to have their friends, family, everybody get to see them in that showcase, that's really exciting for those guys. So preparation is always going to be tough in the NFL. It's going to be a busy year. I think it's more you got to appreciate when you get to an opportunity to play on those stages.
David, you got it, last one. Coach, talk about this time of year being more about developing a player than it is about getting the schemes for Luke McCaffrey. Where do you kind of want to see this development as receivers?
Yeah, I think just mastery of the system more than anything. Like I mentioned last year, had him learn inside and outside, really kind of overloaded him, but you can see the comfort level is there this year. I mean, just watching him move around, he's not thinking as much. He's playing fast and letting his natural gifts kind of take over, and that's what we want to see. So I expect him to take a big jump. All right, thank y'all.
So I'm curious for you, like when you guys add a few different linemen on there, how does that not change your role, but what is your role when you bring on new guys like that? How do you go about maybe getting them acclimated and getting used to them?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it, just like getting them up to speed. I mean, they come from a different system, and just getting them on track. But just spending time with them too, getting to know them as a person and individually as a player. But again, like that's how we have OTAs, right? And we got a lot of guys in the building, and shoot, we just had phase 3 day one. So it's been great,
What have you seen from Jaden? Is he the same guy? Does he look better, different?
He's growing for sure. Every single day that guy grows, and he keeps raising the bar for himself and for the team. And his leadership has been awesome throughout. And it's been really great.
Hey Tyler, good to see you. Speaking of him growing, looks like he maybe put on an extra little weight.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And that's to it. He said what he was going to do, and he did it. So I mean, but no, I mean, just as a leadership too, just how he leads by example on the field, but also in the weight room too, like how he's doing his workouts in the morning, and but just setting the tone early. He's a big early bird. So, but no, it's been great for what he's done. Obviously coming off last year, but also just in the great trajectory going into this year for sure.
What goes through your mind when you see a trade for Tunsil and then a first-round pick for a tackle? What is that going to do for you, for the line overall?
Yeah, I mean, personally, like, just again, like I said before, just getting him up to speed, but just great. I mean, obviously Tunsil's having his career to this point. It's been great just to, talk to him about just ball too. And but whether it be getting up to speed, but also again like just building that chemistry during this OTA stretch, so we can amplify it into August during camp or July during camp, and but also too just we have a lot of shifts going on too inside, and so it's been awesome to just vibe with those guys and see where we're at right now, and just keep on raising the bar now, so we can go into camp flying.
What's it like as a leader on the O-line, knowing that it looks like there's going to be some changes, some new guys in new positions, and just kind of the complicated run stuff and even screen stuff you guys run?
You want to explain the second part again?
Just the offense and the O-line moving a lot. Like, you're at the middle of all that. What's it like trying to get new guys up to speed going into year 2?
Yeah, I think, it's definitely kind of been through my career, there's been a lot of, whether it be on, this team or my, past. But just getting guys up to speed, but also kind of like knowing what their touches on it too. Like everybody's different in regards of like whether it be body type, speed, or how they see certain things. So the biggest part is just getting on the same page of whether it be like screens, for example, how you said, just the timing of it and the pattern of how we're getting out in space, or what's our first read to our second to our third. But obviously, like having a lot of pieces from free agency too, like we are going to be more dynamic, and obviously like with our skill guys on the outside, but also our skill guys on the inside too, and how we can get out in space. And that's just a testament of how hard we're working to be able to have that flexibility for Cliff too, to have whatever kind of play call he wants. So it's been great in that regard, but also just to answer your question too, just having a lot of different mixes. But that's where we've been at in regards of whether a guy went down or whatever it is. We've been flexible in practice for the preparation of that. So, test to our coaching staff from last year too. And when we got in certain situations where some people had to fill in, or even when I had to go out, when Dieter stepped in, or when Trent stepped in for Sam. So we're always preparing for that, and we're always having different combinations and different roles. But and that's the beauty of OTAs too. Again, like how I said before, it's about chemistry, but it's also about how you're playing with each and every person, whether it be guard, tackle, or even like tackle tight end combination in the run game. So there's been a lot of great experience into that. But again, like how I said before, it's kind of getting yourself to a level of confidence too with that person or that partner that you're going into that combination pattern with, whether it be pass pro or run game, and just kind of keep on raising the bar each and every week that you're working with them.
Hey, Tyler, being the starting center, being the guy that sets the protections and all this stuff, when you have to replace a guy like Sam or introduce these new players, do you feel a heightened sense of responsibility to get everybody on the same page? Yeah, for sure. I think, that's been just throughout my career too, of just like how can we keep getting better each and every year, but also it doesn't just happen too. Like you have to have this time where it is crucial to ask the questions early on, ask the getting the really small details to where like you can raise a level of confidence to the player next to you, because there's a lot of quotes out there, but it's like you're not as good as the the person next to you. Like how can you amplify your success, but not only yours but the guy next to you too, because obviously two is, working with the same page is better than one, right? So there's a lot of ways of saying it, but the better you are with one another, especially for O-line, like you're a unit. And that goes for all 11 on the offense too, but obviously the O-line is the ones that are working together probably the most in regards of combination, or whether it be pass pro or run game. So that's at a forefront all the time. And just, obviously looking back at what we did last year, areas we can improve, and obviously we have strengths too, and just to keep those and raising the standards of that, but also making those improvements to where we need to improve. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again when the time comes, but when you look at the schedule initially and you see that trip to Green Bay early in the season, what are your thoughts on that?
Closer to home for sure, for me personally, but it's a Thursday night game right away, so that's exciting, obviously, but at the same time, like, you got to look at camp first, right? You got to look at tomorrow's phase 2 day first. So, but no, I mean, obviously, like anytime I get to see my family is a blessing, and I love them, and obviously, if that having a lot of family members there for me is great, but also at the same time, a win is a win for me. So
to come back and to have not just Cliff come back, but pretty much the entire coaching staff come back, how much does that just help you guys as players as you build off year one?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think, having the coaching staff and just growing with them, and a connection base of, just how we connected so fast year one, and how can we make those like small detailed changes, or just kind of going through where we can improve, like how I said before, but just the confidence there, and just the growth as a player, coach, or an individual, whether it be off the field too, of just making that connection, and having that brotherhood bond, and that is huge for sure, and it's been great. This last month and a half has been a lot of fun.
Do any specific examples come to mind for you when you talk about having increased flexibility in play calling of the playbook? Anything jump out?
In what regard?
Like with all the new additions, you're talking about you're going to be more flexible and you know, maybe open up the playbook a little more.
Yeah, I mean, in that regard, like how detailed we can be and how efficient we can be, and whether it be outside zone, inside zone, mid zone, you know, whether it be gap scheme, G scheme, whatever it may be. That's kind of what I got to. Like the more efficient we can be in a lot of different patterns kind of opens up the whole playbook too. And obviously, you know, we're going to open up the playbook, but in regards of how efficient we can be, it's it puts a toll on the defense of how much they have to prep. So the better we can be, you know, we can fire all guns.
But by efficient, do you mean like running more plays out of different looks? Or I guess like what do you mean by efficiency? Sorry.
Whatever the formation is or pattern of the run game. I'm not going to tell you our plays, but
yeah, I mean,
but no, I mean it's more so just the, you know, our efficiency, whatever it is, run or pass, you know, and scheme. Yeah.
Okay, so just one from me then the last one is up for grabs, everybody. Hey, Tyler, when you reflect on last season, all the games are tough. It's hard to win a game, but are there any other lines or defensive lines that you all went up against that you said, you know what, that was a tough matchup, excluding the NFC Championship game or anything like that, but in the regular season last year?
And like what direction are you pointing that at?
So in terms of the offensive line, you all said, you know, as a line, that was a really tough matchup, you know, win or lose. It was just one of those games that when you think about last year, any lessons learned from last season, you say, hey, that was a tough one that we can learn a lot from.
Like, are you talking about the NFC Championship game? No. Or are you talking about any D-line? Okay. I mean, shoot, like, obviously, like, you know, you look at our games that came down to last year, and, you know, we've been in some tough ball games. I mean, that we've come out on top as a win in a lot of situational football. So there isn't an easy game. And it comes down to just, again, like, how efficient can we be, you know, even, you know, keeping the pocket clean. And how can we make sure our run game, you know, you're keeping it, you know, 4 yards on average, you know, when you get a run, or like when you do get a run, like how efficient can it be in regards of, it's not quote unquote maybe the D line, but it is considered front seven for sure in regards of the box. And we played a lot of, you know, tougher teams on stat lines that were, you know, quote unquote stats, but in regards of like where they're in a good run game or, you know, pass game defense or whatever it is. So it doesn't just kind of revolve on the D-line side, but I would say like the more efficient we can be, whether we don't turn the ball over in regards of how efficient we are in the run and pass, but also to keep drives going. And obviously, like you look at our fourth down rate and how we progress each and every week too. So, I mean, I don't want to pinpoint like a certain, you know, team or anything like that. It's just more so like, you know, how efficient we showed up that given day, and that's at a premium every week. So sometimes it, you know, it comes down to certain teams or whatever it may be, but I couldn't give you a certain team at the moment. I would just say like we just have to be, you know, locked into the little small details and, you know, keep that ball rolling, and obviously you want to score touchdowns, so just keep it to be efficient.
Tyler, you know, obviously you and many others came over here last year and helped establish this culture, build this culture. What is that like now, year two, to have a really good culture in place? And one, how do you build on that? And two, how do you kind of be that gatekeeper of the new guys coming in this year and have them hold to that standard?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, we're a great group of guys that, you know, we want to help in any way we can for the, you know, the rookies coming in or even free agents coming in, and just setting that tone of our standard. And we had a great opportunity phase one just to get to know everyone and kind of get to know everyone's story. And our coaches had a great, you know, setup for us to get to know one another, not even in this career, but like what was your story, you know, just so, you know, I could ask you like, what was life like you growing up, or whether where you were from, and but just get to have that bond, you know, that first week. And it's not even wasn't about football, it's about just getting to know the guys. So that kind of just set the tone for like, you know, now you really know who you're working with, or what's their why behind it all, or what are their you want to go out to dinner and get, you know, food and just, you know, have a chat, because a lot of guys come in for free agency and they don't maybe have a place right now. So just getting the guy to spend some time with the guys, and just, you know, got to go out to a hockey game, you know, got to see the Nationals, the Capitals. But we got to, do a lot of cool events so far, and, we keep bonding and keeping that brotherhood and keeping that standard of what it is, and to keep pushing ourselves and have great competition within the game we love. So it's been great. Like I said before, I'm having a lot of fun. These guys have been great. Couldn't say enough good things about the rookies that came in and the free agents.
With that being said, how's it feel to be back? What's the energy? What's the vibe like, man?
Yeah, the energy's up, the vibe is up, and it's just good to be back with the boys. Find that brotherhood again, turn up. So, yeah, just like I said,
With these OTAs, what's the goal here?
Goals to get better. Work on little things, details. So, going to footwork, your steps, the right yeah, I think it's building that on right now. We got a lot of new faces on the team. It's our job, to bring them along. How quickly can we do that? Everybody kind of moving forward in the team. Nobody left behind. That's the shit. I feel like that's the whole point of the team.
Coach, in year 2 of this defense, what more things can you guys do now being the second year of the system?
I said nothing more extra than what we've been doing. We got a lot of, hiccups here and there, but I just feel like right now it's the perfect time to sharpen that and, just have the opportunity to be out here every day to get better.
They've had a lot of size up front. How can that help you guys?
Oh, a lot. Just me and Bobby being in the back and having, Payne and you guys came out in the front to help us, fit our gaps better and get down here. I mean, it's just it's a good addition to the team. We need looking forward for season to have a ball. Man, I'm just gonna stand on, man. We just got to stop it. I mean, I said what I said, but I just feel like at this moment, we're whatever just push on, we just got to stop it. Something stiff to them.
What do you think Golden State over the line? Do you like them?
Man, social media undefeated, man. I mean, it's cool. We've been over, but the ball was snapped and whatnot. But yeah, man, it's all over, and it's out there. Man, he in the weight room, so he got the sleeves on some practices. I think today he had with no sleeves on, but he put the work in. It's definitely good to see, especially for him, put in the work. So,
knowing how last season ended so close into the big game, how did that maybe fuel you, motivate you, sour taste in the mouth? Take me through that.
Definitely, for me, left the bad taste, and I can't do anything about it but continue what I'm doing now. Obviously, it's still my end, but we just got to move on and get better this year. A lot of the guys feel, kind of the same way, and it should be that way. We just want to win the chip, but last year, focus on the guys that we have and have an opportunity to win them. I'm just excited that we have the same run and have the last fun.
Another season with Bobby, what does it mean to have him back, and what do you guys can do together?
I'm excited, to have a veteran linebacker like that here at 19, and just have him next to me, kind of slow everything down, and it's just good to have a guy like that you can trust and also just because we can't play fast, that's eliminate all the distractions and whatnot, and having to do it at a high level at where he's at, and it just speaks volume of the person he is.
Look at the schedule of all the primetime games and Monday night, Sunday, Thursday night. Are you excited about the opportunity to play in those sorts of games?
I'm excited to play. It can be on a Thursday or Tuesday at most. I'm just excited to be out there and just get a win.
I guess anybody, anywhere, anytime, sometimes last year, what they said about these guys, the culture that was built so quickly. How cool is it to establish and to build on that for this year, knowing that you're in the prime time a lot this year?
It's important. Building off of that, and we got a lot of prime time games. Change nothing that we do out here. That's far as we work. And the games will come, the sunshine, and the bright lights will be there. But right now, we just put in the work now for the big time moments.
Top one to have that against the Guns. You guys, you added, how you kind of feel, you guys
it's too early to tell. I haven't worked with the guys yet. I haven't offense and defense go at it yet, and when that time comes, I'll have my spiel on it. But as far as everything, I've got AP and the right guys, and we're gonna go with them. We're gonna trust them.
Oh man, I love Cliff for sure. Offensive guru, expect excellence from everybody, treat everybody the same, just want the best of the team.
What's it been like working with Terry? I know he's not out here today, but how do you guys stay in touch?
I understand the business side of things, and I kind of like when they stop coming, I understand the side of the story. So I just not try to get bothered with it and just let him, deal with it on his own and just kind of handle it on his own. But when he was here, man, it's business. Feeding off each other energy and trying to get each other better.
Is there anything that you kind of focused on this offseason following last year?
Being in better shape for sure. Some new offense, so getting that down and just continue to learn every day.
What did you do? I'm sorry. What did you do to get in better shape, and how will that help?
We just train it every day. In here, we kind of built a program for me to go by. That's what we're doing.
And how will that help?
It's going to help.
What were your impressions today?
First meeting, it was crazy. I kind of played it against a good bit. So I just think, overall, high energy guy, a great coach for sure.
There was a moment in practice when you and Adam Peters were just talking. How comfortable knowing that you brought you here and how that makes you feel as far as you spinning and knowing that he's the one who cut one here?
Me and him kind of got history when he was in San Fran. I got to know him very well here. So when I realized I was coming here, I was more excited. One of the first guys to call and talk to, and just continue to build on what we already had.
You had an impression of culture here. You mentioned DQ, and a lot of people credit last year to him showing up and instilling a culture. Have you gotten a sense of that yet?
I just feel great energy around everybody who's here.
You don't know what the future holds for yourself after this year. So how do you view this opportunity for yourself here in Washington?
I got to make the best out of every opportunity I get.
We're used to a lot of these prime time games. San Francisco is very new here. When you see that schedule, what you kind of tell guys?
I think my focus is on the time. Like we're in OTAs right now. When that time comes, but I just look at it week by week.
Leaders, are you ready for the most epic summer ever? Get set to unlock your potential and have a blast doing it. Welcome to BossUp Summer Camp. Ignite your curiosity with incredible STEM adventures. Dive into the wonders of science, technology, engineering, and math. It's hands-on learning that makes discovering the world exciting and fun. Get ready to build amazing things with your own hands. Learn how to assemble and pilot incredible drones. Experience the thrill of seeing your creations take flight and explore new perspectives. Unleash your inner innovator. Learn to code, create apps, build games, and bring your digital ideas to life. Coding isn't just a skill, it's a superpower for the future. Develop essential teamwork and leadership skills. Collaborate with new friends on exciting projects. Learn how to communicate, problem solve, and work together to achieve amazing results. It's not all work. It's tons of fun too. Enjoy exciting weekly field trips and make memories that will last a lifetime. Every day is an adventure packed with learning and laughter. Don't miss out on the ultimate summer experience. Build skills, make friends, and become a boss this summer. Sign up for BossUp Summer Camp today.